going to be one of those mornings. Okay, there we go. Bases dropped on a Boxing Day Power Hour, and greetings from Ozark, Alabama. The show will be here today and tomorrow, and so we will be talking about everything going on there, and we'll be talking about everything going on your mind yesterday, today, the weekend, and going forward. Boxing Day Power Hour today. And first off, apologies for being tardy. But for those of you that have seen the show over the last couple of years, the internet here is a bit wonky. And so, so everything locked up. The second you hit the go live button, then it locked up on me. So that's why the delay this morning. So apologies for that. But we've got a power hour to go through. And a lot of it's going to be what is going to be going on in England as we go today. Game already going on, and I think it's something to keep an eye on, where you've got a lot of folks coming back from participating in the tournament to determine the world's best. Hugo Lloris being an example of that, started on the bench today for Spurs. Brentford jumped out to an early 2-0 lead. I think it's 2-1 now as we're working our way forward with that one. But we'll keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on all the matches going on. Give you previews for everything going on at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And we'll roll through the day and roll through the numbers and look at juice boxes and all the news that's fit to print. All the gossip, rumor, and innuendo, as we are now only less than a week away from the opening of the January window. And there's news on Cody Gakpo this morning. There's news on the MLS front this morning. And so we'll get through all of that. And thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us. By the way, I'm John. And the question of the day, once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And I know that the joke will continue that that's the best I've ever looked with the QR code over my face for an entire show. But it won't be for an entire show. Kickoffcoffeeco.com, kickoffcoffeeco on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 when it comes to Kickoff Coffee. You get 15% off of your purchase. Then they, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I just want to know how your weekend's been, how your holiday has been. Did you get the pony that you were asking for? And all of the good stuff that's associated with the holiday season that we're in right now. But the question of the morning is, what is your specific holiday tradition that no one else has? Your specific holiday tradition that no one else has. Could be going to a specific restaurant, could be a particular dish that's attached to your holiday and your holiday weekend. And the biggest thing there is just to kind of share what you've got going on in your place, and have everybody share what's going on at their place here for the holiday weekend and for the holiday week, because I know a lot of you have this week off when it comes to your 9-to-5s and the work that you do. But no, I just wanted to know, I kind of wanted to share holiday traditions with this particular show and what is going on with your holiday traditions and how different they might be from folks around you, and what's different with yours that would set you apart from everybody else around you. Like I said, for us, it is, and it's a tradition. I don't know if it's different from a whole lot of you, but it is going to Waffle House. We go to Waffle House I go to Waffle House. I pick up the food, but it is Waffle House is the lunch of choice on Christmas Day. And so Christmas Day is the time where we pick up the orders. And for me, traditionally, it is grilled cheese wheat on 2, triple order hash browns. And the boss's mom gets her pecan waffle, and the boss gets her grilled cheese and double order hash browns. So, yeah, we really have a lot of hash browns floating through the house, and a lot of grilled cheese sandwiches floating through the house. But that's our tradition. So whatever your tradition is, let me know. Let us know here in the comments, and we can share traditions as we go this morning. So once again, thanks for hanging out with us. And like I said, we're going to break down everything and look at team news and things like that as we're getting ready for all of the action that's going on today. You've got the one game going on right now. And as we look at scores, and like I said, it was 2-0 Brentford early, and they're still trying to navigate and come up with a conclusion to the Ivan Toney investigation. No word on when that is going to be completed by the FA. Early action in the championship this morning. Millwall beat Watford by the score of 2-0 right now. Sunderland and Blackburn are tied at 1s, and they've got a handful of minutes to go. Brentford and Spurs are now tied at 2, and that's got 6 minutes plus any added time to go there. Brentford had a 2-0 lead and have surrendered 2 goals since. So it's 2-2. Juiceboxes going in. Tottenham was a plus 110 at the G-Tech, and Brentford was a plus 249. Your draw was a plus 268. And so we'll keep an eye on that one for the handful of minutes that are left. At 10 o'clock Eastern time, this is when pretty much all of the English soccer pyramid explodes. Every division you can think of has got games going on, and I think that's where a lot of us are going to be spending our viewing habits today. Championship has 6 matches going on with a lot of home favorites. Half of them are home favorites, and you got a couple that are toss-ups along the line. But Hull a big favorite at home, Middlesbrough a big favorite at home, Preston North End a favorite at home, and Sheffield United with Coventry is a favorite at home. And that's 4 of the 6 that are there this morning. And League One's got everybody going on 3, 6, 9. I'm having me count early in the morning. 11 matches going on in League One at 10 o'clock. And it's 11 matches going on in League Two and the National League. Premier League has 4 matches going on at 10 o'clock. We'll go over team news coming up in just a little bit. Crystal Palace at home was a plus 114. At home hosting Fulham. Your draw and Fulham to win in 90 minutes are both about the same in the plus 250 range. Your draw is a plus 257, and the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, Fulham to win is a plus 250. Everton is a plus 154 at home hosting Wolves. A lot of concern over Frank Lampard again and his possible future. And there's talk that he's going to have to get a lot of points in a very short period of time if he's going to keep the confidence of the front office, the fan base, and everybody associated with the Toffees. And they're a plus 152 hosting Wolves in their first match with Julian Lopetegui as a manager. They did pick up Mateus Cunha on a loan with an option to buy by the end of the season. They're at a plus 198. Their draw is a plus 229. 10 o'clock Eastern, Leicester hosting Newcastle. Newcastle on the road's a plus 114. Your draw is a plus 254. Leicester is a plus 248. Southampton and Brighton. Southampton is a plus 267 at home hosting Brighton. 254 plus 254 is your 90-minute draw, and Brighton is a plus 108. And we'll keep an eye on players like Alexis for Brighton. And will Alexis start? Will he come off the bench? And one of the underlying things of Boxing Day and the festive fixtures period is the integration of all of these players that played with their national teams deep into the World Championship and trying to figure out where their health is, where their recovery is. Do we start? Do we start, give them 60? Do we have them come off the bench, give me 30? Those kinds of things. And with all of these matches in a very short period of time to start the second half of the season, this is going to be one of the things that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is all of these players that have been playing for their countries, and now they're finally hanging out and hanging around, and it's like, okay, so here's what we're staring at, and so we'll keep an eye on it. D. Graham this morning, and it's good to D. Graham to have you in this morning with your tradition, and thanks for playing along this morning. It is Christmas tradition to have Lefsestulen, blind dates, a cookie, thank you, and Sandbachels, which is more cookies. So we like cookies, D. D. Graham is very, very cool. You have a lot of cookies. We like a lot of cookies, and that's very, very cool stuff there. So also on the board, we've got matches this afternoon, and like I said, it's lower divisions. It is Middle East. It is North Africa. It is Ligue 2. Working your way through Europe and Western Europe finally working their way through. Belgium has their one match at 12:15. The game in the championship with Cardiff and QPR. 12:30 is Villa and Liverpool. Liverpool's a minus 147, understandably so. Your draw's a plus 317. Aston Villa's a plus 405. That one is at 12:30. We'll circle back to that one in just a bit. But once again, it's lower divisions. 245 Anderlecht's playing in Belgium, 3 o'clock, Arsenal and West Ham. Arsenal's a big favorite at a minus 172. And your draw is a plus 322. And West Ham is a plus 520. Ligue 2 takes over at 3 o'clock. And then the Copa por Mexico is at 8 o'clock. You can catch that on 2 And it is Toluca and Necaxa. Toluca is a plus 110. Your draw is a plus 218. Necaxa is a plus 231. Now, one of the other things to pay attention to here is with Aston Villa, specifically the relationship that is that seems to be already fading between Emi Martinez and Unai Emery. Unai Emery has said that he's going to have a discussion with Emi Martinez about his celebrations. And there are reports, and I'm gonna phrase it this way, that there is talk. And once again, it's in the papers, and we'll go through the papers as well with the headlines this morning as well, that Emi Martinez in the January window may be on his way out at Aston Villa. And frankly, if that happens, to me, that's a mistake. And if that's going to go down, then I'm looking at, I'm looking at one of the, top keepers in this league that is going to be trying to be shipped to another home. Okay, so you want to do that? You want to jeopardize what you're doing so far and send one of the top keepers away because of quote unquote antics, end quote. And we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see if Emi Martinez stays with Aston Villa or if he's on his way out in the January window. But right now, Aston Villa with that Liverpool match at 12:30, they need all the help they can get. And last time I checked, if the opposition isn't scoring, that means you're at least walking away with a point. Villa right now is in 12th, but as we break down the standings in the Premier League, Arsenal obviously at 37 points. The biggest question is they've only lost once in their first 14. Can they continue this kind of a pace? I don't think so. Manchester City's lost twice. They're 5 points back at 32. Newcastle has won 5 in a row. They've won their last 5. They're at 30. Spurs at 29. Looks like they'll escape the G-Tech with a point today. Manchester United is currently 5th at 26th. And then you have the groups that we always see. That's like that first group. Starting at 6. Liverpool's at 22. Brighton's at 21 ahead of Chelsea on goal difference. Fulham's at 19 ahead of Brentford on goals scored and ahead of Crystal Palace on goal difference. 18 points Aston Villa. Leicester's at 17. They've kind of caught fire recently after a horrendous start. Jason Nix can attest to that. And Bournemouth's at 16 points, snapping a 4-game losing streak last time out before the window for the World Championship. Leeds is at 15 points. West Ham's at 14 points. They've lost 3 in a row. Everton is at 14. They've lost 2 in a row. Then in the relegation zone right now, it's Nottingham Forest, who has won 2 of their last 4. Southampton has lost 3 in a row. Wolves have lost 4 of 5, thus bringing in Lopetegui as their head coach. So, you're looking at obviously the 3 groups that we're always looking at, and you've got basically, I'll say 1 through 5 just for the sake of doing it that way. Then you have 6 through, say, 13 separated by 5 points, and then 14 through 20 separated by 6. There's always those 3 groups that we see. And, as we go, we'll see how it shakes out. But this is one of those opportunities that we see in the festive fixtures window where the teams that are lower in the standings seems to come up and they'll get some good runs. They'll get a couple of wins here and there. They'll get points in unexpected places. And so I think that festive fixtures might be one of those times where, we're looking at lineups for all of the teams in groups A and B, but at the same time, you're also looking for opportunities for the teams that are in groups B and C to sit there and storm up the standings, because they didn't have folks chasing after world championships. And it could be one of those where you have folks, coming up and biting you and coming up with big juice box numbers that we'll see here in festive fixtures. Emilio, in the conversation with Dan, stooling for you as well and adding Pantone to that. So a lot of cookies. That's good stuff. I'm never going to turn down a cookie, but it's been fun stuff this morning. And keep go ahead and let everybody else know on the Twitch pitch what your Christmas traditions are. Like I said, this is a Boxing Day Power Hour, and it's just to basically say hi, that we're back and we're getting ready for festive fixtures and getting ready for the sprint to the new year. And remember, where Major League Soccer is concerned, it is showing up, at least for Atlanta United. You show up on the 6th, and that's when you start having your physicals, and training starts on January 8th. So literally we are almost 2 weeks away from the beginning of training camp for Atlanta United. 2023 season is going to be here before we know it. And we have the one fixture in Chattanooga. We have on the 15th, we have February 15th, it's AmFam 2. And then everything kicks back in on the 25th of February. So you're basically 2 months away, just under 2 months away from the beginning of the regular season. So there's going to be a lot of stuff happening very, very quickly, very, very short order. And it will be, it's going to be a sprint. There's going to be a lot to talk about as we go here through festive fixtures, through the new year, getting into training camp, all those kinds of things. And we'll have all of our regular guests and all of our regular behavior and misbehavior and everything going on. So we ain't going nowhere. But just wanted to poke our head back in this morning and let everybody know what's going on here. And let me see if the first match has gone final. And the answer is still in play at 90 plus. Okay, so still in play at 90 plus. So we're still at 2-2 as time is winding down with Brentford and Tottenham. Remember, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Everton, Wolves, Leicester, Newcastle, Southampton, and Brighton. They are all coming up at the top of the hour. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo this morning. And there's a lot of it. And traditionally, like I said, as we're getting close to the beginning of the transfer window, there's plenty to talk about. Arsenal have agreed in principle, and this is what a lot of fans were looking at, the Mikhailo Mudryk deal. Arsenal have agreed in principle with Ukraine winger Mikhailo Mudryk as talks over the fee continue. So personal terms have been agreed to with Mikhailo Mudryk and Arsenal, and now it's just a discussion with technical director Dario Serna as to the fee. Nikola Shura has reported that the agreed in principle part has been squared away. Initially, Shakhtar Donetsk was looking at something in the neighborhood of $100 million, but it had been told that you're looking at maybe 60. So remember that Shakhtar Donetsk is also currently trying to regain 40 million euro through the Court of Arbitration for Sport for lost transfer fees for players who, because of the war, they got to have a 1-year waiver and basically left Shakhtar Donetsk, and they're playing elsewhere. And Shakhtar Donetsk has not been, in a situation where they could be reimbursed for that. So they're looking for 40 million in basically damages for players who got to leave on this 1-year waiver. And, you wonder how many of those players will be able to come back because, the war will probably still be going on after the 1 year is up. And so Shakhtar Donetsk has to figure out a way to continue to function as a club. So we'll see what Cass has to say about that. But right now, it looked like 60 million was what Dario Serna was going to take for a fee for letting Mikhailo Mudryk go from Shakhtar Donetsk. And Arsenal looks like they've agreed, according to Nikola Shura, to a deal in principle on personal terms. So we're looking for team terms now between Arsenal and Shakhtar Donetsk. Real Madrid, Chelsea, Manchester City have made RB Leipzig's Josko Gvardy all their number one transfer target. That's from our friends from Sport. Tottenham and Liverpool are among a host of Premier League sides ready to make a move for Milan Skriniar, whose Inter Milan contract expires at the end of the season. Arsenal are also close to agreeing to a new contract with Gabriel Martinelli. That's from Fabrizio Romano this morning. Spurs are monitoring Manuel Ugarte's situation at Sporting Lisbon, with the 21-year-old Uruguayan defender struggling to agree to a new contract with the Portuguese club. Al Nassr are interested in signing N'Golo Kante when his Chelsea contract expires at the end of this season. That's from our friends at Foot Mercato. Newcastle, Juve, Borussia Dortmund, all among a number of clubs considering a move for Real Valladolid, Spain under-19 right back Ivan Fresneda. And so Fresneda's 18, so we'll keep an eye on that. And that's from our friend Fabrizio Romano. Wolves targeting a new goalkeeper in January to provide competition for Jose Sa. That's from the Express. Villa have opened talks with Villarreal over a deal for Netherlands winger Arno Danjuma. That's from Toto Fichajes. Inter Milan considering a summer move for Chris Smalling at the 33. It's from Calcio Mercato. Newcastle have opened talks with Flamengo over a deal for 18-year-old Brazilian midfielder Mateus Franca. That's from our friends at Globo. And Spurs also interested in signing Pedro Porro from Sporting Lisbon. Jordan Pickford is happy to extend his stay at Everton as talks continue over a new contract with the Merseyside club. So we'll keep an eye on Jordan Pickford and his possible future with Everton and see where it may go from there. Now that's the world approach. Let's see what the paper talk, as it is referred to as, and all of the transfer center material from our friends at Sky. Let's see what they have to discuss this morning. And it looks like Chelsea are now leading Manchester City and Manchester United in the race for Declan Rice, avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter paper, as we always do. Daily Telegraph, Jurgen Klopp has showered praise on absolutely exceptional Jude Bellingham, but the Liverpool boss will likely face a financial hurdle to be able to secure it, the midfielder, in the summer. Basically, he said that he's plays with the maturity of a 29-year-old, and he's only 19. So high praise from Jurgen Klopp. Daily Mirror, Graham Potter says talks with Chelsea's hierarchy have left him confident they support him despite a rocky run of form before the World Cup break. Avoiding the 4-letter paper, leading figures in England from the Times. England's European Championship finals winning squad set to receive honors in the New Year's list later this week, including head coach Serena Wiegman, Leah Williamson, and player of the tournament Beth Mead. Independent, Marco Silva says Fulham and Crystal Palace's success with players coming through the championship shows England's second tier can provide Premier League quality additions. And I know, speaking of the second division, I know a lot of folks are looking at Ben Brereton Diaz as another example of that. And so, keep an eye on the championship talent, because once again, it's also another way to bring in talent that is less expensive than dropping mid-8 figures on bringing in talent. So I know a lot of folks are looking at Ben Brereton Diaz as a possible talent. So we'll see what happens there when it comes to what we're seeing. Also on the board this morning, it is checking our papers from the Daily Record. John Lundstrom says the Rangers have banished talk of the 9-point gap to rival Celtic, as Old Firm is coming up just around the corner. Steve Lomas hopes his Northern Ireland compatriot Stephen Davis will be able to come back from the knee injury, which has ended his season with Rangers. And Celtic boss Ange Postecoglou will not risk Josip Juranovic against Hibs this week after his delayed return following the World Cup. And I'm just going to say this. If you're a fan of Scottish football, Hearts keeper, there's a double leg break for a Hearts keeper this past. Craig Gordon, out for the season, obviously, suffered a double leg break in the 2-2 draw with Dundee United on Christmas Eve, and an accidental collision with Stephen Fletcher. He turns 40 on New Year's Eve. He's got a contract with Hearts until the summer of 2024. Yes, the pictures are out there. Yes, they do exist. I'm not going to tell you where to go look, but I'm just going to say this. Saw the Getty photograph, saw it once, and have no desire to see it a second time. No desire whatsoever to see it a second time. So, it's out there. And so it was pretty nasty. But, yeah, it was a double leg break for Craig Gordon, and he is obviously out for the remainder of the season We mentioned the new deal with Gabriel Martinelli getting closer and closer. Thomas Frank has signed a new deal with Brentford until 2027, and we'll keep an eye on that. AC Milan winger Rafael Leao has revealed his desire to play in the Premier League at some point in his career, but says he's focused on Italian football at the moment. Portuguese attacker has been linked with a move to England, and the 23-year-old admits he's enjoyed watching Arsenal play this year. He says, yes, in the future, but now I'm 100% focused on Milan. I'm at a top club and under contract. I also like the city of Milan. I've seen a lot of their games this year, meaning the Premier League. I like Arsenal. I think they play very well. World Cup starlet Azzedine Ounahi says he'll decide his next club based on the sporting project they have, not the stature of the team. The Morocco midfielder who plays for Angers in Ligue 1 had a breakout tournament from our friends at Sky. He did have a tremendous tournament, been linked to some of Europe's top clubs since. Quote, I told the president the sporting project comes first. They don't have a favorite league or an ideal destination. I want above all to evaluate the sporting project. I know that I still have progress to make at the club where I will go. I want to be clear with everyone. I have no preference for this or that league. As if there is a real sporting project, then that's where I will go. So we'll keep an eye on Ounahi. West Ham manager David Moyes says the club will not roll over and let Declan Rice leave the club without a fight. Linked with a move to a Big Six club, but Moyes says West Ham are capable of reaching Champions League football themselves. That would have to be through Europa League, sir, but that's just me. He wants to, quoting Moyes, he wants to win, wants to play for a really good side, which is going to give him an opportunity to do so. We hope that we can reach the Champions League. It's looking difficult at this moment in time, true, but we're not just roll over and let Deck walk out the building, that's for sure. It's going to be a big fight, and I like it because he wants to challenge himself and wants to play in big games, wants to be a top player. I don't think you're ever going to hold anybody back from those ambitions. Thomas Frank remains excited and believes that Brentford can achieve much more after renewing his contract. He says staying at Brentford is a privilege. We'll keep an eye on that. Crystal Palace manager Patrick Vieira has promised the fans a busy, that's his word, January transfer window, but has refused to be drawn on a move for Manchester United's Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Bissaka is loved by the fans, says Vieira, but is failing to make the grade at Manchester United with Diogo Dalot preferred at right back by Erik ten Hag. Vieira, once again, you can't get into tampering and things like that. So this is a quote. Listen, he's a Man United player. We have to respect that, and there's nothing more to say about that. He's a good player. There's no doubt about that. He's related to this football club, and I think he's been loved by the fans. But again, he's a United player. I hope we're going to be busy in January. We always work hard to try to improve the squad, but we know how tough and difficult it is to find the players to improve the team. We're quite short on numbers, but it is important to find the right players. So keep an eye on that. Robert Lewandowski admits it would be a dream to play with Lionel Messi before he retires. Joan Laporta admitted this week that he would love to bring Messi back to the Camp Nou, but branded that eventuality unrealistic. Now, Lewandowski has said his desire to see Messi back at the club as he began his professional career. He says, it's not up to me. Of course, we see that now he plays more like a playmaker. Maybe he scores fewer goals, gives more passes to teammates, although he continues to score them. But compared to other times, he is now the footballer that any striker would dream of playing alongside. Aston Villa, speaking of Unai Emery has hinted that Felipe Coutinho still has a future at the club as he can help us a lot, quotes, in the long run. 30-year-old has tailed off in his form this season. Reports claim Villa are prepared to let the Brazilian midfielder go next month, but Emery says Coutinho's training well, is set to return to the match day squad for the Boxing Day visit of Liverpool after a hamstring injury. Quote, Coutinho had 2 or 3 training sessions when I arrived here. He trained very good, very good. He was very excited to show me and show us his best qualities. The injury was in a bad moment for everybody, for him, for the club, for the team. Now he's training every day, and I'm seeing him really training well. I expect the best of Coutinho. I expect of him the best Coutinho possible for him on Monday. It is a special match playing against Liverpool, and I think he's going to be in the squad. He's not ready to play 90 minutes, but I am looking forward to seeing him on the pitch in the matches. With his quality, he can help us a lot. So we'll keep an eye on Coutinho. Let's see as we go through the rest of the paper talk. Graham Potter, we mentioned Graham Potter and the backing of the board. He admits the January transfer window will be competitive, says his focus is to improve the players at the club this month. Quote, after losing Broha to a long-term knee injury in a midseason friendly on the back of 5 winless games in domestic football, quote, what I would say is that historically the January window isn't so straightforward to find solutions. From my perspective, there was an extreme period, and I would not want to make too many drastic assessments based on that extreme period. I think the team, as I see it, has not functioned as maximally as I would like it to, and I think it can do. Job of a head coach is to focus on the ones that are here and make them better. There is room for improvement there for sure. He's admitted that Todd Bowley backs him. He says, I have fantastic support. Really looking forward to the weeks and months and the years ahead. We understand where we're at the moment, understand the challenges ahead, but that's where we are in the journey at the moment. So there's your notes from Graham Potter and Chelsea. Mikel Arteta has revealed he wants to do his transfer business early in the window, linked with several attacking and midfield options. Gabriel Jesus ruled out for an indefinite period because of the knee surgery. And so Mikel Arteta, he says it's idealistic, but sometimes not realistic. Obviously, if you ask my opinion, as quick as possible, we want the players in. We don't need a body. We need players that make the team better. Can we afford not getting the player that we want? That's my question. We can afford to get a striker for sure if we want one. I don't know if he plays in League 2, League 5, Spain, Portugal, Africa. We can get a striker. I can guarantee you that. I'd like to see that striker out of League 5. But what we cannot afford to do is get a player here that's not for us. This is what we cannot afford. That is for sure. Right. And yesterday, Atletico Madrid and Brazil forward Matheus Cunha completed his initial loan move to Wolves. Obligation to buy is at the end of the season for a fee that could rise up to £35 million. Joining the club January 1st, subject to work permit approval. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. So that is your run through of all of the league news as we continue to roll. And we'll get into the team news for the 10 o'clock matches since we're 20 minutes away. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on with that. Let me see if we can figure out the lineups as they've been released this morning and get into what folks are looking for here. James Maddison is not in the Leicester squad versus Newcastle, and Newcastle is without Callum Wilson. No Alexis for Brighton at Southampton. And so, we'll keep an eye on those names. But like I said, this was going to be something that we were going to have to keep an eye on here during festive fixtures, was the idea that you weren't going to be getting everybody right there at 100% right out of the blocks. So Spurs draw at Brentford. They go level on points with Newcastle. So now but Newcastle, remember, has a match in hand. Arsenal and Manchester City have 2 matches in hand. They've only played 14. Spurs have played 16 matches. They have 30 points. They are tied with Newcastle in points with for third. That's where we're heading. Callum Wilson, the big absentee for Newcastle. Can Luke Thomas, and this is from Daniel Kahn, who is at the King Power. He says that can Luke Thomas, who's deputizing for James Justin, who is injured, and Harvey Barnes, who's having an underrated season, get the best of Kieran Trippier and push back Miguel Almiron. So we'll keep that's one of the big ideas in this particular match. So here's some Boxing Day stats for you. Since returning to the Premier League, Leicester have won just 1 of their 8 games played on Boxing Day, losing 6. Sorry, Knicks. With that coming in 2018 against eventual champions Manchester City. Newcastle have lost their last 6 league games played on Boxing Day since beating Stoke 5-1 in 2013. The last team to lose more consecutively on this day in the top 4 tiers of English football, Walsall, who did it 7 times between 1949 and 1957. Only Claudio Ranieri and Graham Souness, 7 each, have managed more Premier League games on Boxing Day without ever winning than Newcastle boss Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe has drawn 3 and lost 2 on Boxing Day. With the news for Southampton and Brighton, we talked about Alexis not being in the lineup. Walker Peters returns, and there is no Alexis. No player has scored more away goals in the Premier League this season than Leandro Trossard, who has 5. No Seagulls player has ever scored more than 5 on the road in a single campaign. Consistency, according to Dan Sansom at St. Mary's, is the next test for Roberto De Zerbi And been some highlights: the 4-1 win over Chelsea, 3-1 win over Arsenal. They've only won 3 of De Zerbi's 10 so far, and their first match after the World Cup had them beaten on penalties by League One strugglers Charlton. So, keep an eye on how things are continuing to grow and evolve with Brighton. And, you wonder, Dan Sanson was asked who will benefit more from the World Cup break. Salisu is the only Southampton player to feature. He played all 3 matches for Ghana in the group stage. Bella Kotchap was there with Germany but didn't get on the pitch. Brighton had 8 players of the tournament, 7 of them featured. Robert Sanchez remaining an unused substitute for Spain. We all know about Alexis. So, how does Brighton get affected with the slow start? Nathan Jones made 3 changes from the side that beat Lincoln in the Gummy Bear Cup on Tuesday. Edozie, Diallo, and Gineppo replace Bella Kotchap, Maitland-Niles, and Adam Armstrong in the starting lineup. Roberto De Zerbi has made 5 changes for Brighton after they lost in the Gummy Bear Cup. Robert Sanchez is back in goal. Veltman, Trossard, Mitoma, and Estupinan. Purvis Estupinan. I knew it was a Monday. They come into the side. Steele, Lamptey, Gilmore, Enciso, and Denis Undav drop to the bench. So that's your look at Southampton and Brighton coming up in short order. Let's see. Also coming up, we need Crystal Palace news. So no Calvert-Lewin for Everton versus Wolves coming up at the top of the hour. Let's see. What do we have? Opta stats in this one. Wolves are winless in their last 7 top-flight Boxing Day games. They've lost 5 since beating Birmingham 2-1 in 1978. The first fixture on this date since the 2018-19 campaign, a 1-1 draw at Fulham. Everton have won just 1 of their last 7 league games, losing 5, failing to score in 5 of their last 6. The Toffees have failed to score in 13 Premier League matches since Frank Lampard's first game in charge in February, with their opponents, Wolves, doing so more in that time. 14 failed to score. Wolves have lost 7 of their last 9 Premier League matches, taking 4 points from a possible 27. 1 win and 1 draw. It's their first Premier League game when starting today at the bottom of the table since their final game of the 2011-12 campaign, a 3-2 loss against Wigan. This is Lopetegui's first ever Premier League game in charge. The 12th different Spanish manager to feature in the competition. Just one of the previous 11 lost their first game with Unai Emery, losing 2-0 to Manchester City with Arsenal back in August of 2018. And so you've got all of that news. Frank Lampard discussing the injury to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He goes, the injury's good. He's recovered well. It's more about match fitness now, and he's not been able to quite make it. Working hard. We're hopeful that he's involved in our next game with Manchester City. On Jordan Pickford's immediate return, he says he's adapted very quickly. He's performed well for England individually, and he's back at home. The boys who've come back from the World Cup are all fit and ready. And on Godfrey being in the match day squad, it's really good. He's worked really hard, been a frustrated figure. He's another excellent selection for me in terms of speed and power. It's now about finding the right moment to get him back in there. So keep an eye on that. And there isn't a whole lot of optimism in this one. Wolves, they went to the World Tournament break goalless in 72% of their fixtures, 13 of 18, with non-Big Six teams away from home since the start of the season. So a lot of folks are basically just predicting a goalless draw. Wouldn't be that much of a stretch. Julian Lopetegui is calling for defensive security and at the same time being able to damage the opponent. He says, quote, this is football. We're trying to do it, but I think that we're going to put the focus on the next matches. The first is to compete and to overcome the opponent, and then step by step trying to develop our idea. So we'll keep an eye on what we're seeing there with Julian Lopetegui and his debut with Wolves today. So it's going to be an interesting one involving Julian Lopetegui and what we're seeing with Wolves. But yeah, a lot of folks are just saying goalless draw, and you probably wouldn't be too far off when it comes to that particular matchup. Also, Alexander Mitrovic is going to start for Fulham at Crystal Palace. That'll get us through the 10 o'clock matches coming up once again, top of the hour. Mark Gahey has been suspended for Crystal Palace, and Mitrovic will start. Once again, both teams are at 19 points in the Premier League. They're paying Crystal Palace paying a special tribute to faithless singer Maxi Jazz, died peacefully in his sleep Friday night in honor of the lifelong Palace fan. Both teams will walk out to Faithless before kickoff. Maxi Jazz, big Palace fan, lost to us at the age of 55. Crystal Palace have won just one of their last 7 Boxing Day games in the Premier League, losing the last 2 by a 3-0 scoreline. They lost lost 3 consecutive league games on this day between 1999 and 2001. Fulham have lost their last 2 Premier League matches, with both defeats coming courtesy of 90th minute winning strikes from the opposition. No side has ever lost 3 consecutive Premier League games thanks to 90th minute winning goals before. And so will you get late drama at Selhurst Park? We'll find out today. Fulham have scored more cross-assisted goals than any other side in the Premier League this season with 9. 7 of the Cottagers' 24 goals, 29.2%, have been headers, the highest share of any side in the Premier League. Mitrovic being back in, according to Zenny Boswell at Sky. 4th highest scorer, 9 goals, was a doubt. So too is Anthony Robinson, but the USA international is also in from off on his return. Mitrovic has been and this is from Boswell, Mitrovic has been a talismanic figure for Fulham this season. Head coach Marco Silva will be delighted to have him back. Charlotte Marsh for Sky at Selhurst Park. No Mark Gahey due to suspension, having picked up 5 yellow cards. So yellow card suspension for Mark Gahey. Center back was arguably unlucky to miss out on the England squad, misses first Premier League minutes of the season. James Tompkins comes in on defense for Crystal Palace. Jordan Ayew and Joachim Andersen start on their return from the world competition. The latter facing his old club, taking the captain's armband this afternoon. Fulham team news: your starting lineup for Fulham: Leno, Tete, Diop, Ream, Robinson, Paulinho. I like how they mention Anthony Robinson, but they don't mention Tim Ream playing for the national team. Reed, Pereira, De Cordova, Reed, Mitrovic, and Willian. On the bench, it is Rodak, Adarabayo, Duffy, Wilson, Kearney, Chalobah, James, Vinicius, and Harris. Your starting 11 for Crystal Palace: Guaita in net, Klein, Anderson, Tompkins, Mitchell, Decore, Elise, Schlupp, Zaha, Eze, and Ayew up top. Your subs: Butland, Ward, Milivojevic, Hughes, Edward, Ebioe, Richards, Riedewald, and Gordon. So that's your look at the team news and your starters from Selhurst Park in that particular matchup. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well, going across the board. Remember all of the talking points that we have when it comes to the Premier League. You look at how things were. We kind of broke things down into the 3 groups and laying things all out there and trying to figure out where we are. But you look at since the world competition is done, the next 3 for Arsenal: at home to West Ham, they're at Brighton, and they're home to Newcastle. And so right now you're 5 points clear of Manchester City, but you're without Gabriel Jesus. Martin Odegaard has led you with 6 goals. Also on the board, remember, with Aston Villa, you're in 12th. Danny Ings with 6 goals, but your next 3 are Liverpool, Spurs, and Wolves. And so we'll keep an eye on those as well. The loss to Fulham that led to Steven Gerrard's sacking, that's out the door. Now folks are looking at Unai Emery, trying to figure out what the future is going to be for them. When we go into Major League Soccer, there have been some transactions, and a lot of folks in Charlotte are going to be missing somebody. Daniel Rios is now gone from Major League Soccer, and he's headed to Liga MX. We'll get into that deal in just a second. Maxi Morales, remember, before we left last week, is heading home to Racing Club. St. Louis City has signed a South African midfielder, Njabelo Blum, And so that's another pickup for City SC. Picked him up from Chiefs ahead of their 2023 expansion season. Undisclosed transfer fee. The contract runs for the 24 MLS season, option years for 25 and 26. Lutz Pfannenstiel says excited to bring a young South African national team player like Blom to our squad. His ball-winning, super aggressive warrior qualities as a central defensive midfielder match what we're looking for in our philosophy. Blom's addition to our team is exactly the missing puzzle piece we needed. And so we'll keep an eye on St. Louis City. And should push for the analysis is that he should push for a starting spot in the midfield along with DP Edward Lewin, who signed last summer from Hertha, and Bradley Carnell, who played for Kaiser Chiefs, has familiarity with the Kaiser Chiefs philosophically, 8 assists in 94 matches in 3.5 seasons. For Blum, helped the club finish second in the top flight in 1920, their best finish since 2014-2015. Senior team debut for South Africa during a World Cup qualifier against Ghana in September of 2021. Helped guide South Africa to a third-place finish at the Africa U20 Cup of Nations in 2019, then played at the U20 World Cup. Reminder that their debut is February 25th, meaning City SC's debut is when they visit Austin on February 25th and come home March 4 for their match against Charlotte at City Park. Remember, we mentioned Daniel Rios. He's heading to Chivas. And so big news there for Charlotte. Danny Rios for an undisclosed fee. This was yesterday. Joined the expansion season with a trade from Nashville. 7 goals, 2 assists, 27 regular season games, 15 starts. And so Daniel Rios is now heading to Chivas Guadalajara. Mexico native, professional career started at Chivas. Nashville's first signing before their 2020 expansion league season. 5 goals and an assist in 30 matches. Now they keep, now when you look at Charlotte, they have Shinyashiki Shvidersky at center forward. And they're also close to adding Enzo Capetti from Racing Club, according to Tommy Scoop's Tom Bogert. And so Chivas finished 9th in the Apertura, and they are now coached by Chicago Fire FC manager Veljko Paunovic. So Daniel Rios heads back to Mexico to be a part of Chivas Guadalajara. Columbus Crew signed free agent defender Jimmy Medranda for the 2023 season with an option for 24. And that was announced on Friday. Spent the last decade in Major League Soccer, 9 goals, 11 assists, 145 matches across time with Sporting Kansas City, Nashville, and Seattle. He's won 4 trophies. And quoting Tim Bezbachenko, proven winner, proud to have a player with his MLS experience choose to sign with the Crew, bringing a decade of MLS experience with him to Columbus. Jimmy's addition to our roster will help provide depth, create competition on the back line. Looking forward to having him as a part of the team. So that gives them another left back option with Will Sands. Pedro Santos was their starter, but Santos is now at DC United. And so this is their first season with Wilfred Nancy, remember. And he came over from CF Montreal. And so Columbus's season starts at Philly February 25th. And so that's your MLS trade tracker and everything going on in Major League Soccer. So couple of other things that I wanted to get into before we go, and one of them has to do with our friend Bam and what Bam had been telling us about what was going on with the activities with the rivalry match, Melbourne Victory, Melbourne City, and the more information came out yesterday. And let me know if you've heard this kind of stuff before when it comes to the activity, because they mentioned the punishments that had come down. Okay, so here's your punishments with Melbourne Victory, and this is from our friends at Guardian Sport. Melbourne Victory has been handed initial penalties, but has yet to feel the full wrath of Football Australia for the scenes that caused the abandonment of last weekend's Melbourne Derby. As a result of the violence at Ami Park, tickets will not be sold for Victory's A-League men's games until the 15th of January, and only valid club members will be allowed to attend home matches. Active support bays for both Victory and away fans will be closed, while the show cause process is fully worked through, the Australian FA said in a statement on Atlanta. Active supporter base for Victory's upcoming away games will also be closed, and only members of the home team will be permitted to enter the venue. Any potential points deductions or fines are yet to be announced, but when announcing the initial sanctions, the FA said it hoped to give short-term confidence to stakeholders in the game. Decision on the result of the match is yet to be made. City were leading 1-0 when the game was called off in the 22nd minute. FA Chief Executive James Johnson says, whilst we continue our very thorough investigation, Parcel, I'll get you in just a sec. I just saw you pop up. Whilst we continue our very thorough investigation following the inexcusable scenes witnessed at the Melbourne Derby, Football Australia has issued Melbourne Victory with a series of strong sanctions, which will need to be implemented to enable their participation in both A-League men's and A-League women's competitions until a final show cause determination is made. That's from Chief Executive James Johnson. These sanctions come into immediate effect, starting with Melbourne Victory's A-League men's match on Boxing Day away to Western United. Following the sanctions issued against individuals earlier this week as a part of a package of sanctions in response to the incidents witnessed at the Melbourne Derby last weekend. These measures are an essential step for Football Australia as it considers further sporting and financial sanctions that may apply to Melbourne Victory in the show cause determination process. Managing Director for Victory says that, no, it's tough. It's not what we want. Want our members and fans in the stadium. First and foremost, we want everybody to feel safe about coming football. Carnegie called on supporters to cop the penalties and try not to circumvent them. And the biggest issues with City keeper Thomas Glover, match official Alex King, a camera operator, and 2 security guards. Glover got a cut to his face after a metal bucket was thrown at him. You'll remember that. Police estimated $150,000 worth of damage done to the stadium after about 80 flares were set off. And FA promised swift action. 10 people who invaded the pitch have been issued bans. 2 most seriously alleged offenders given life bans for attending and participating in football. 29 people have been arrested as a part of Operation Astute, with 24 charged. Police had identified 36 people in total from the incident as they continue to make inquiries. FA's walking a fine line with the sanctions. It didn't want to cripple the club over the actions of a small group, but also couldn't send a weak message over pitch invasion. FA confirmed they're reviewing conduct of some City fans in the meantime, directing the club to cordon off their home and away active bays until advised otherwise. Look, you're dumb. It's stupid. Don't invade pitches and throw flares and damage keepers because you're mad about a neutral site. All I'm going to say when it comes to the Melbourne police is do your due diligence. When you find out who they are, do more than just ban them. You can get around bans, arrest them, charge them with the appropriate crime, and charge the ever-loving crap out of them. If they're found out to be guilty through video evidence or what have you, fine, lifetime ban's great. But when you injure cameramen, when you injure players, when you injure officials by throwing a metal bucket because, you think that's a cool thing to do, I'm going to throw a metal bucket and hit a player because I'm mad at the front office. No, it doesn't work that way. Does not work that way at all. I'm sorry. Doesn't work that way. Find them, prosecute them, make an example of them, that you don't do this kind of stuff. You don't do this kind of stuff. You really don't. All right. Atlanta United, the 10 o'clock games have started to kick off, so we'll be wrapping up here in a couple of minutes. Parzival, any more news on Atlanta? Shouldn't we at least be linked to players with the almost certainty that Joseph is not returning? Okay, so once again, we get into transfer windows, and let me phrase it this way, Parzival. We don't know what we don't know. The front office traditionally has not operated in the public sphere. The only way we found out about Derek Etienne was through a leak on social media. And, so they're doing their business behind closed doors. And when the rumors are out there, then folks who are plugged in, they'll probably say some things, and it probably will be from outbound in as opposed to the other way around. But remember, front offices always work best in secret, because what you don't want to do is sit there and say, that we are interested in player X. Because if you do that in the public sphere, then what you do is you set yourself up for possibly being, and I'll use the phrase, taken advantage of financially. It's like, oh, you're interested in this guy, so what's it worth to you? That kind of a thing. So let them work in secret. The names will come out in due time. But just remember that if you work publicly, it's like it's like saying that you like something and you really want it. And so what does that mean? Supply and demand could cause a price increase. So just know that they're looking at, they're not just standing around. I mean, the Quentin Westberg thing is transaction is another example. We didn't know about Quentin Westberg, but once again, when you're out there as a free and you're out there as a player who's looking for something, and Atlanta United's looking for a quality keeper, then you find out, hey, Quentin Westberg's available. We heard nothing about a negotiation. We heard nothing about any kind of salary figure, nothing preliminary at all. And then all of a sudden on social media, Quentin Westberg pops up. Welcome, Quentin Westberg. So just because you don't, and this is going to come across as a double negative, and it's probably going to drive my mother nuts. Just because you don't see anything happening doesn't mean that things aren't happening. Does that make sense? Just because you don't see names in the news doesn't mean that they're not working behind the scenes to fill vacancies and things like that. So keep that in mind. Also, Emilio, we've heard the stuff about Alan Franco. Well, is he going to Sao Paulo? Is he going to stay? I think the way that you're looking at the back line is, and Noah won't be playing primary minutes. You're counting on everybody that you have in-house. That means that, you're looking at Miles, you're looking at Purata, you're looking at, you're looking at probably getting another experienced center back that would fit your system. So, that's also probably on the shopping list for Atlanta United. But Noah, and you asked Gonzalo Pineda this, Noah Cobb has been drawing raves from Gonzalo Pineda. I don't think that you're going to be getting primary minutes from him, but what I think you're also shopping for is, what you're looking for is an actual, you're looking. I forgot my train of thought. That's what happens with a Monday. So I think that what you're looking for is you're looking for an experienced center back, and then you're looking at that grouping starting. You're looking at Purata, you're looking at Ronald Hernandez, you're looking at Noah Cobb, but not getting primary minutes. But remember, going back to AmFam last year, remember in the second half of the match last year for AmFam 1, your right side was Aiden McFadden and Noah Cobb, and they did not look uncomfortable with their surroundings. I'm not anticipating Noah getting, starting minutes out of the blocks, but I would anticipate that the confidence that Gonzalo Pineda has and giving responsibility to Noah Cobb will continue. So I would look for the shopping list to include an experienced center back to be paired with Juanjo Purata to start the season. Kind of like what they were looking to do with Ozzy Alonso last year, where you wanted to have Ozzy around and help you out for that final 20 or 30 minutes and then help you finish matches. So that's, in a perfect world, that's what I'm looking for, is that experienced center back to add to that mix at the back. So just keep an eye on the back line, but no, I'm not anticipating, Emilio, that Noah gets primary minutes. I mean, he'll probably get minutes here and there, but it won't be primary. But wouldn't surprise me if he was in AmFam and AmFam 2 and got quality minutes there. Jersey leak, I liked it. I mean, just wider stripes and things like that. So it's stuck with your motif. But if I remember correctly, the wide stripes were wide enough to where it was 5 of them on the front of the jersey. So very, very cool stuff. So and Emilio, I understand losing the confidence with with the front office. I understand that. But, the biggest thing for me is, I'm gonna let them work. I'm gonna let them cook in private. And if names come out, then we can analyze them. Like we did with with Alan Franco's analysis coming out from Brazil. I'm gonna let them cook for a while, because you're looking at Garth Lagerwey, who's focusing on the business side of things, and what you're looking at from the rest. So it's you're getting new ingredients into the soup, and so it's gonna take a little while for it to cook. Okay, so Parzival, as the roster sits right now, who do you think we start the season with next year? Like I said, I think it's probably going to be some combination of Purata and that experienced center back that we're bringing in, and then you bring Miles in. You bring Miles in to get him acclimated. You bring Noah Cobb in to get him acclimated. So I'm going to say Purata, and I'm going to say that experienced center back that you're looking for as a part of the mix. And then, like I said, integrating Miles. We also don't know Miles' recovery path. So I know Emilio isn't going to be ready till June-ish, and so you're looking for February. You're looking for like 3 or 4 months out of an experienced individual that can fit your system. And there are guys out there that are experienced that you can have and that you can plug in. So, like I said, I'm looking at Purata on the right-hand side, and then figuring out the left-hand side with Noah Cobb being that experience, that third name that you come in off the bench to help close the door and things like that. So that's what I'm looking at anyway when it comes to the elements at the back. But remember how it was where you had Caleb Wiley, you had Andrew Gutman, and you had your center back, and then you had Alex DeJohn put in quality minutes because of what he meant to the system. And so you probably would end up getting a more experienced version of Alex DeJohn, something like that. And if someone who fits the system that they're comfortable with and that they're working through. And so I'm like I said, they're probably looking at names, and they're probably 4 or 5 deep in names, if not more than that, and sit there and say, okay, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, and they probably have big whiteboards all over the place. So yes, no doubt. So your striker back position with Andrew Gutman, no question. Yeah, so the striker back position with Andrew Gutman, but yeah, look for an experienced center back to be brought in to help out in that left-hand space. And I know, Michael, that I think, 2019, I think that's right. But yeah, and so, but once again, Garth, remember, he's focusing more on the business side of things. It's the first chance that he has had the opportunity to do that. I'm sure he will have input, but remember, he's on the business side. So we'll keep an eye on what Garth Lagerwey brings to the table. I'm looking forward to it. And I've been to the press conference, the introductory press conference, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Garth Lagerwey brings to the table this morning. So before we go quickly with the 10 o'clock starts, just again, reminders. All right. Southampton, Brighton, goalless. Crystal Palace, Fulham, goalless. Everton has scored already at home against Wolves, so that means that the airborne DJ Tom Russo is very, very happy. And Newcastle has scored twice already in the first 12 minutes at King Power, taking on Leicester. So we'll keep an eye on those 4 matches that have kicked off. And our buddies at Wrexham in the National League, they have kicked off at 10 o'clock as well, so they're right at it. So enjoy your Boxing Day, everybody. And remember, Aston Villa, Liverpool's at 12:30. Arsenal, West Ham is at 3 Eastern. And we will be back here tomorrow with more stuff. And that is the official term, with everything going on in all the leagues all over the place when it comes to this sport. And I feel better when the analytics team consists of more than, I know that just analytics input is more than just one person. Just because you have someone in a team listed as such, analytics and input come from a bunch of different directions. Don't get wrapped up in the idea of it being one person. So, all right. So when we come back tomorrow, we'll do it again. So go enjoy the rest of your Boxing Day and enjoy your matches, enjoy your teams, enjoy your traditions. And we'll be back at it tomorrow when it comes to the sport that we all talk about on a daily basis. So for everybody here at SDH, please enjoy your Boxing Day. Be safe. Finish your leftovers. And be sure that you come back tomorrow. And we'll do it all again. Thanks for hanging out with us one more time. For everybody here at SDH, for Jason, for Jarrett, and for Nick, I'm just John. Played safe, everybody. Mucha platial. Since it's the end of the show, it means I get to do this. We'll do it again tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out.